Speaking of the Vikings, the Niners wanted Cam Dantzler?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of reports about how the 49ers inquired about Cameron Dantzler.
And the Vikings clearly were like, no. Because after Patrick Peterson is gone for this year, Cam Dantzler's moving up. Bashad Breeland's not coming back.
Yeah,
if he keeps playing like he did in week 1.
Did not do good.
Which if you listen to our if you listen to when we were covering
about the OTAs.
In August, we were talking about OTAs. We mentioned how people at the OTAs were telling us Bashad Breeland looked bad. So he's picking up right where he was. He's still learning the system, and Zimmer has a difficult system for D-backs. But
yeah, he said he got exposed a bit, and he needs to buckle down.
He absolutely does. So we can't get rid of Cam Dantzler. The Vikings did lose in week 1, 27-24 to the Bengals. We did not think that would happen.
No.
But what was interesting was D.D. Westbrook was our punt returner. Amir Smith-Marset was our kick returner. And when Kene comes back...
Yep, he should be the guy.
He'll probably be
so
both.
fast.
Yeah.
He's so fast.
I like D.D. at punt return because he is quick. He's not fast, but he's not super fast.
And you can't put KJ out there because he's your wide receiver 3 now.
Locked in wide receiver 3. He did
had
awesome.
An amazing,
which
3rd and 24 or something like that.
I talked about how KJ has a potential of losing his job this offseason because he did so poorly in his rookie year, and we had rookie wide receivers coming in. Him jumping up and developing into that makes my heart feel good. When we drafted him, I was so happy and made me feel good. Speaking of heart hurting, Mick Tingelhoff died.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, old Viking legend. Hall of Fame, pretty sure. So, gone but not forgotten. We had some positives and negatives from the Vikings.
Yeah, so we try to keep, as like you've stated before, we try to stay as positive as possible on the podcast. So we have a lot of positives and then a couple negatives just because there's glaring issues.
Yeah, people in sports in general tend to be too negative.
Absolutely. And if I look through the Bleacher Report stuff all the time. Everyone's negative.
My family was texting me in halfway through the second quarter of the Vikings game saying, fire Zimmer, fire Spielman, cut Kirk. They were saying, have a fire sale and trade some of our best players. All because they were losing to the Bengals in week 1.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick's week 1 percentage is really bad.
They look at this game and they see just comparatively, Kirk's stats, 351 and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers had $138 and 2 picks. So
Aaron Rodgers would have had a better quarterback rating if he spiked the ball every time he threw it instead. I just don't understand. I understand competitiveness brings out aggression. So people, because they get angry, they get negative when it comes to sports. They want to talk crap about other teams to let them know they're terrible. They use the term poverty franchise way too much.
I've been using poverty a ton lately.
Right, people use it just all the time, just way too much, and people have to say, "Oh, their team lost, season's over." And
you look at there's some games where
didn't the
teams
Buccaneers weren't they wild card last year? Pretty sure the Buccaneers were the wild card team, and they were 7-9 and then 9. Yeah, they were behind the Saints. So no team is perfect. No team I'm pretty sure when the Packers won the Super Bowl, they were wild card with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Just
there's teams that got just demolished, right? The Packers got demolished. Is anybody doubting the Packers? No.
No.
The Ravens got demolished. Is anybody doubting the Ravens? No.
Today on sports networks, I was watching a few people talk about how they would take Derek Carr over Lamar.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Derek Carr is a great quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or good. You don't have to call him great, but he's not as bad as a lot of people say. I think he's right there with Kirk Cousins type. He's a Kirk Cousins type quarterback. Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins. Yeah. They're all right there. He's a quarterback that can take you to the playoffs, and he can lead you to the playoffs, but you need a team around him to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson can, if he's peak Lamar in a playoff game, you're gonna win. So I don't know. Some people are worried about
everyone
the Ravens.
Overreacts.
Everyone overreacts. They call it Overreaction Monday on Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
It is Overreaction Monday, but it's overreaction every day in the NFL.
Yeah.
And
Vikings,
just sports, but Vikings for
in general,
sure.
It's overreaction.
They say that teams bring in the attitude of their city. So the Vikings must be super negative in the locker room, extremely passive aggressive with each other.
Telling that, like, just pointing out everyone that should be cut and traded.
Yeah. Just Kirk probably can't even show up. Oh, man. But anyway, so we'll go through the negatives, and then we'll go through the positives.
Can we just add, right off the bat, negatives? Fans overreaction.
Fans overreactions. We already mentioned Bashaud Breeland.
He had a rough day. Like, he gave up the bomb to Jamar Chase. He gave up the touchdown to T. Higgins.
There were way too many penalties.
Oh, yeah.
That's
we had
obvious.
91 yards in the first half.
Yeah,
that's the whole football.
The Vikings had more penalty yards than the Bengals had yards.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how the game went, that's all you need to know. The Vikings had more pass yards, rush yards, first down, time of possession, and they were still losing. Then Zimmer's challenge.
Yeah, it was super questionable. Justin Jefferson got down to like the 3-yard line. We had, it was later in the game. We had timeouts. It was just a questionable challenge. Like, we lost a timeout for it, and then Dalvin the very next play just ran it in.
Yep.
So super questionable.
It was a questionable challenge, but that was all our negatives.
You could have kept the challenge for the. I guess the Dalvin Cook fumble was already.
You could call these negatives, but the worst rated Vikings were Garrett Bradbury, Rashad Hill, and Tyler Conklin.
Yeah.
Conklin, first time starting as a tight end for the Vikings, basically. First time he started in week 1 for the Vikings, so there's one reason. Bradbury and Hill. Hill is not viewed as the long-term starter. Bradbury is the biggest concern. And then the Vikings only ran play action 15% of the time. Kirk Cousins is the highest-rated quarterback after play action.
Yeah, he's a great play action quarterback.
Last year they ran play action 30% of the time.
Yeah.
So that needs to change. So is the game plan. I said going into the game, my biggest concern was the offensive coordinator who has never called plays before. And that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a terrible offensive plan.
He's got to air it out a bit more.
Absolutely.
Even though Kirk had 351 and 2 touchdowns, he's got to air it out more.
Air it out? Yep.
Positives.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the positives. We covered the negatives. Good enough. I feel like I just swallowed like 17 gushers. Like, it just feels like I just got a bunch of sticky stuff in the back of my throat.
Well, I mean, what we did
what we did during the breaks. Positives is... Greg Joseph.
Yep. He hit the 53-yarder.
Did you see who hit a 54-yarder? Or 55 to send to overtime?
Daniel Carlson.
You
know who missed like a kick? Possibly win it for the...
You know who missed 3 kicks in a game against the Packers? Daniel Carlson. So.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was a positive.
Yeah. A lot of people slander Kirk because we lost, but...
Because he's Kirk.
Yeah.
Like, they slander Kirk
351 and 2 touchdowns with... one of the highest QBRs this week. So.
And, like, I also like to go not based off stats. If you were watching that game...
Yeah.
It was
the Dalvin fumble.
Right.
Cost us. It was the penalties that
Justin
cost
Jefferson's
us.
butt being down, but it being called not... Yeah. It's like... Kirk Cousins was not the reason they lost. Kirk was just also not a reason why... Like, if they would have won, Kirk also just wouldn't have been the reason they won.
Yeah.
So... It's like typical Kirk game. When I watch him play, I don't feel wow. I never am like wow. I felt wow when I feel it when he throws deep balls.
Yep.
Like that.
Well, you mean like off of play action? Out of play action?
Off of play action. Or he has some like 5 and outs when it goes directly to the sideline. I feel like he is money on those throws.
Yeah. The thing is just I think you need a game plan that can work with it.
But he's not... Like, everybody says he's so bad. I think if they don't make the playoffs this year, you can move on from him. And, like, you can be better than Kirk Cousins. But it's hard to find quarterbacks that can put up his numbers. Yeah. Like, if you don't like Kirk, that means you don't like Matt Ryan. You don't like Dak Prescott. You don't like Derek Carr. Derek Carr was led a 13-3 team. Kirk's led a 13-3 team. Matt Ryan's led a 13-3 team.
Yeah.
Like, people, he's
if you were
he
watching,
was in the top 5 for quarterbacks under pressure. He was in the top 5 for quarterbacks in an open pocket. He's top 5 in deep ball throws.
I believe he had the second least amount of time to throw last week.
Yep, and as we mentioned this last week, as a Viking, he, in his time on the Vikings, in any quarterback's 4-year stretch, He has the lowest amount of time in NFL history, including his first year on the Vikings where he averaged 1.7 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah.
No quarterback is good with 1.7 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah, if you watch that game, it was...
Gets me riled up.
Yeah. The Dalvin Cook fumble, and then all the penalties.
All of our receivers looked phenomenal. Part of that is because Kirk throws a good ball, but Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne all looked good. Awesome. Conklin didn't, but his stats dropped because of his blocking, but...
Which, he had to help O-line, and the O-line looked bad, so therefore he's going to look bad.
Right.
Too.
But KJ locked in. Wide receiver
KJ
3.
looked great.
Better than BB, better than BC.
He had a great conversion, like a 24-yard conversion. So
reliable. Kirk is very much if you prove you're reliable, he'll stick to you.
That's why Thielen had 2 touchdowns.
And that's also why Thielen will go games with multiple games in a row with 20 targets. Yeah. So KJ Osborne, awesome for him. Michael Pierce had the first multi-sack game of his career.
Yeah, he's not just a run stuffer.
No, which we knew that. Dalvin was the guy we thought was going to be the run stuffer. Pierce, we knew he was going to be good. Awesome. Yeah. Harry looked awesome. He had really good coverage. It's just that deep ball on Kendricks, or on Jamar Chase, where Breeland was guarding him.
Woods was on that side too.
Right, like I don't think that was Harry not helping. So Harry looked good. Kendricks was all over the field. Yeah. There was a play where he lined up in the A gap and got the Bengals gained 4 yards and he got the tackle on the sideline. Kendricks looked so
Vigil
good.
Looked good too.
Vigil looked good.
Right off the rip, Vigil looked good.
And then on the other side, Danielle Hunter.
Wait, there was this one he just slapped the guy, slapped the dude out of the way, and it was just Burrow knew it too. Burrow was like,
right. This is going to be a bold statement, I think. So I was listening today, and somebody said Khalil Mack's the best pass rusher in the NFC North.
Okay.
I'd rather have Danielle.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bold statement compared to what most NFL fans would say.
Right.
I'll take Danielle. I think as an overall player, Khalil Mack can play linebacker, edge rusher, whatever. Overall player, he's probably more desirable. But if you're saying pin your ears back and rush the passer, I'm taking Danielle every time.
Yeah, Danielle's something else.
He's not human. They got him his money. He's happy, and I'm happy.
Yeah,
so.
we're both happy.
O'Neal didn't allow a single pressure. For the people that thought that he was overpaid, and we talked about that last week, Brian O'Neal didn't allow a pressure. Not just a sack.
Yeah, I think Bradbury had 4.
Bradbury allowed 4 pressures. Rashad Hill allowed 4 pressures.
Cleveland had 1.
Cleveland allowed 3, and Udo allowed 2.
Yeah.
And O'Neal allowed 0.
Yeah. Pretty good for a 78 overall in Madden.
Yeah, so...
He got paid like the second best right tackle in football, and
a second best right tackle wouldn't allow a pressure.
Yeah. There you go. He's known as a run blocker, too.
Exactly. But we talked about how his agileness makes him such a good pass blocker. And then the last positive is Vikings are in first place.
Yeah. If the season ended right now, we'd be in first place because we have the closest points for versus points against.
Yep. So there you go.
Packers will be in last.
And the best rated Vikings were, number 1 rated Viking was Kirk. Then it was Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, CJ Ham, KJ Osborne, in that order. The last little positive thing we have about the Vikings was I was listening to Darius Butler. He has his own podcast called I'm blanking, but it's like Everything DB. It's a defensive back podcast.
Sure.
And he was talking about the one team that he thought would bounce back. Like the team that looked terrible in week 1 that won't look terrible in the future and he thinks is actually going to turn it around the most. He picked the Vikings. He thought the Colts and the Vikings, but he used to play for the Colts, so he is a little biased there. Yeah, so I think that's a positive when you have an ex-player have something good to say. Because a lot of
believes in your franchise more than the fans believe in
your franchise. Because a lot of the media, pundits, people, whatever you want to call them, were basically, I was listening to them when they were doing, recaps of the week. They all basically skipped over the Vikings. Bengals, Vikings, Bengals beat a bad team, Vikings played poorly, go on. Or Bengals, Vikings, Joe Burrow was good, and then move on. Like, it was they didn't talk about it at all. So, I love hearing that Darius Butler thinks that the Vikings, that was a fluke loss, because it gives you a little bit more faith, because I trust what ex-players have to say, especially not in a media-based setting.
If this is the game that's going to... Like, if this is the game that needs to kick us into gear, and we don't have it late in the year, and then all of a sudden we start questioning how good we are.
Like Josh Allen's rookie year when the Bills knocked our socks off.
Yeah.
When I was at that game, and it felt... My dad and I looked at each other, we were like, this feels weird. Like, all the players were sitting around with their helmets off, talking. They weren't really practicing before the game. We were like, this is weird. And my dad and I were like, are we going to lose this game? And then we got destroyed. Yeah. I think it's games like that every team needs, and... Maybe, because I think that was Zimmer's first loss against the Bengals. I thought that was a big positive. I was happy to hear it, and
let's clean things up and smack around the Cardinals a little bit.
That was my smack image.
You had to have your tongue out, or
yeah. Okay. I need my tongue out most of the time. The air's tasty.
Okay.